Hello and welcome to the extra episode of my trophy guide for Elden Ring. This video is not required to go through the guide. It simply serves as a section where I can share some information about the run. If you are confused about things during the guide, you might find answers here, but of course you can always use the comment section of the respective episode. I generally answer questions within a day. First, I will give some general information about this game. Personally, I give this game an overall difficulty rating of 9 out of 10. That is, if you don't have any deeper knowledge about it and just stumble along. This rating is also only this high thanks to one singular boss. Now, when it comes to this guide, the difficulty rating drops to a 5 out of 10. I have very specific setups and strategies for all the difficult bosses in the late game, which makes them significantly easier. You might still need several attempts to copy the strategies correctly, but trust me when I say that they will still save you multiple hours of agony. The rating can even be lowered to a 2 out of 10 when you take into consideration rune duplication and summoning players to help with bosses, but it is impossible for me to take that into account, so it will be ignored during the guide. Just know that it is an option. When it comes to grinding, I rate this game as a 3 out of 10. We will go out of our way to pick up materials to upgrade 2 weapons to the maximum level. Only one is required for a trophy. We will also spend roughly an hour to farm 3.5 million runes in episode 2, which will be enough to beat the rest of the game as long as you follow the instructions. Missable trophies are a rather complicated matter. First of all, when following the guide, there is no way to miss any trophies. But to prevent any unwanted surprises, I strongly suggest you follow my path exactly, meaning you copy the exact order in which I do things, copying dialogue choices, and picking up items. Nothing I do in the guide is without purpose. Of the 42 trophies, 2 are truly missable. The legendary armaments trophy can be missed by not picking up the Bolt of Grand Sax before defeating Malekith the Black Blade. The Lich Dragon Fortisax trophy can be missed by picking the wrong dialogue prompt when talking to Fia at the Prince of Death's throne, which will then make the boss fight permanently unavailable. I will also mention that there are 3 endings that reward you with a trophy each. Normally, you would have to play through the game 3 times to see all 3 endings, but what we will do instead is reach all requirements for all 3 endings in one playthrough and to then set up a backup save after defeating the final boss. We can then use save scumming to see all 3 endings in one playthrough. There are no multiplayer trophies, and as of update version 1.08, it is also now possible to follow this guide without multiplayer, as one particular side quest, which is used to access early rune farming, has been granted an alternative means of completion, which can be done offline. If you are playing on PS5, you will still need PlayStation Plus. That is because the PS5 is the inferior version of the PS4 and is no longer capable of uploading save data to a USB storage device. And as I mentioned before, we do need backup saves to get all endings in one playthrough. Online sources claim that it will take approximately 60 to 100 hours to obtain the Platinum Trophy. I finished this guide in 8 hours, which still includes all cutscenes. Before delving further into explanations, I quickly want to mention something else. As you might know, I have already created a Platinum Trophy guide for Elden Ring shortly after its release. That guide was around 13 hours in length and focused mainly on using glitches and exploits to easily defeat bosses without even fighting them. At this point, almost all of them have been patched out, and several other means to overpower bosses easily have been made completely unusable, as From Software continues to completely trash anything and everything they deem too powerful. While this makes any form of consistent content creation extremely frustrating and basically impossible, there is nothing I can do about it. Therefore, I have decided to not base this guide on bugs and glitches, and instead opted to overpower bosses with strong setups and scripted kills. This will make it much less likely for strategies to not work anymore after subsequent updates, but will also slightly increase the difficulty of the run. Now, there are still a few things that I want to mention before we start. I will explain most things during the guide, but getting a few things said right now will allow for more topical commentary throughout the episodes. This game can be very tough if you don't know what you are doing. That does not apply when following my guide, as I will do all the thinking for you. However, at certain points you will have to follow precise inputs or traverse dangerous terrain. It is still very likely for you to die now and again. You might even die a lot. That does not matter. This game is simply designed that way, but you do not have to be good at the game to beat it. Most of the game will consist of me running from one point of interest to the other with no regard for anything else. At first you will have to copy this, as we are very weak at the start of the game. After leveling up, you then have the opportunity to still follow my movement or take your time to take all the enemies out on the way. That will end up being a lot slower, but it is an option if that makes you feel more comfortable. I will now quickly go over all the trophies, so stick around for a general idea what you are in for. These subsections are not sorted in any order. First, there are 9 story trophies. Those are all the trophies that you will have obtained after beating the final boss. Note that to enter the royal capital of Leyndell, you have to visit the Round Table Hold and also defeat any 2 of the shard bearers Godric, Radahn, Rykard or Rennala and restore their Great Rune. Therefore, they will not be counted as story trophies. Then there are 3 trophies for reaching different endings, which could also be counted as story trophies. All of them can be reached within one playthrough with the help of backup saves. There are 24 trophies for killing bosses spread throughout the game that aren't necessarily required to progress the story. There is 1 trophy to fully upgrade any weapon. And there are 4 trophies to pick up all legendary items throughout the game. That's it for preparation. I hope you enjoy the run.